All right, welcome back. So we are going to finish up this question. So we finished the first half of the question where we were looking at the probability of selecting a female shorter than 65 inches. Okay, and we found that probability to be 69%. So there's a 69% chance that if we were to randomly select a random female from the U.S. population, there's a 69% chance that they would be under 65 inches. Okay, so that's fine. Now we've got another very similar type of question, but instead of looking at least some value, we're looking at the probability of selecting someone between two values, okay? And so there's a few extra steps that we have to take, but I promise it's not going to be too bad. And before we really get into it, I'm going to draw a picture here to hopefully make sense of something. So let's say that I've got like a square. Looks like this. We all know it. No. This is a square. Okay. Right? Square-ish. Okay. And let's say there's a hole in the square. Let's say the hole is right here. Okay. So, okay. And my job is to find the area of the square, right? Well, we know that the area of this is just the length times the height, all right? Or whatever. This is not a geometry class, don't worry. But there's a hole in the middle here, right? So what I need to do is I also need to find the area of this thing, of this circle here, and subtract the area of the square. So the area of, here's what I'll say. The area of this shape is the area of the square minus the area of the circle. And I guess if I'm gonna do it like that. Okay, so that's easy enough, right? So if I wanted to find the area of this shape, I just need to find the area of the circle and subtract it from the area of the square, right? And that would be this whole area of this new shape. So effectively a square with a hole cut out. Okay, so that idea, you're probably wondering like, well, what the heck? What is this about? Well, if I were to take some normal distribution, looks like this. Let me do a different color. Like so, right? And I wanted to find this area in between. I'll shade it in green, like I've been doing, what I need to do. I want to find this area. Well, what I could do is find, let's see, let me add a new page here. Great. Let me do this. I'll put this all on a new page so we can see. Okay. So this turns out to be a little difficult to figure out on its own, right? On its own. But if we break it apart, just like we did with that square and circle, and instead found, I'll actually draw it even smaller so we can get the whole picture here. If we calculated this area here, and then subtracted, how fun, subtracted this area, we would get that area, right? So same kind of deal with the square and the circle, right? If we were to calculate this whole area, and then take away whatever this area is, that leaves us with this, okay? So that's the idea. How do we apply that to this question? Well, let's take it one step at a time, and hopefully it starts to make sense. And if it doesn't, that's okay. That's okay, because this can be a little complicated. So our first step, excuse me, our first step is defining what the mean and the mean of the population and the standard deviation, which we've got, right? We've got that right here. So slightly different values. Then the last example, but still same process, right? Okay. And then something new, and it's only barely new. Since we're not working with something less than or greater than or whatever, we are working with values in between, right? We just need to kind of rework our probability statement. Okay, so that would look like this. So it's still the probability of something, but we're going to be in between these two values, right? So that would look something like this. 60 inches, okay? And then I'll write, let's see, I'll give myself some more room. 65. I guess I did not need to write all of that. Cool. Okay, and what goes here in the middle is just height. And I guess since we're working with males this time, I'll write this as an M instead of females like in the last one. And all this is saying is that what's the probability of height being greater than 60 inches but less than 65, right? So that's effectively just saying what's the probability that a randomly selected male is going to be in between 60 inches and 65 inches. Okay, so that's that. Step 3 is just, well, what is step 3? We want to find the z-scores, right? So the process is still the same. We just need to do it twice because we got two things that we're comparing, right? Okay, so let me do it. I don't really care how you go about doing this as far as labeling goes. I'm just going to call it Z1. Okay, so that's going to be 60 minus 69 divided by 3. Okay, so that's going to be negative 9 divided by 3, which is going to be negative 3. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing. So we're going to have two z-scores in this case. So 65 minus 69 divided by 3. That's, what is that, negative 4 over 3. And I think that's negative 1.33 repeating them. But let me check. I don't want to give you a wrong answer. Yeah, I was right. So 1.33 repeating. Again, we'll just round it off to 2. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so those are our two z-scores now. Easy enough, right? Easy enough. And then we'll move on and let's sketch it. Now, this picture is going to look just a little different than our last one, but it's okay, right? It's okay. This is just going to help us organize our thoughts here. So, go like this. Draw the normal curve. Looks like that, right? Almost. Label it appropriately. Now, sort of where we label things, I don't really care about the scales. I know that it can be kind of hard to be consistent. I'm not an artist, and you might not be either, and that's fine. But I know now we're going to be kind of far out here, right? 3 standard deviations below the mean, which is considered an outlier, right? So that's that. Okay, and then what we need to do next, let's just label the points, and I'll zoom in here too. So our first z-score was negative 3. So I'm going to just do it like that, okay? And our second one was negative 1.33, so that's like right about there. And since the question is, what's the probability of selecting somebody? Oh, you know what I forgot? Sorry. Let me rewrite this as probability of 3, and then z in between 3 and negative 1.33. Okay, so sorry. That is our new probability statement, right? When we're in the z world, okay? And then now, all we want to do, since our area of interest, z is in between negative 3 and negative 1.3, all we need to do is shade in this area. And what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Well, my original thought, and it will work, is... Oh yeah, look at that. Dang. Okay, so my original thought was, why don't we just calculate this whole area? Calculate this whole area. So you see what I'm doing? Figuring out whatever this whole area is. figuring out what this area is and subtracting the two, just like we did with this square circle situation and what I explained here too, right? Okay, so we will go back to our, I'll get rid of this, no spoilers. So we'll go back to our tool here, very helpful, and let's just go ahead, and I'll go back to remind myself. So -3 and -1.33. Okay, so let's do negative 1. Come on, 1.33, -1.33, like so. See what happens. Cool. So this is the whole area. This is the whole area below that blue point, right? Or that blue line. Okay. So that turns out to be, and I'll write it down just so I can keep track of it. 0.09. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. So how do I want to write this? Well, let me just do this. 0.09. Okay, we won't report that. But that's going to be the whole area of that whole area below -1.33. Okay, and then we'll just come back. And if we remember the empirical rule, and it's okay if we don't, but we know that -3 makes up about less than 1% of the area. And look how tiny that is. Oh my gosh. It's like 1 pixel of red shadedness. But anyway, that area is so small, but still counts. So it's 0.0001. We'll say 0.0014, just so we have a little bit of substance there. So 0.0014, I think, right? 2 zeros, yeah. Great. Cool. And all we need to do now, is 0.0014, and we need to subtract 0.09 from that, so we can get this shaded area here. All right. So take a moment and pause the video and just make sure that makes sense, because it is kind of out there. It is kind of out there. And now, as I've written this, I wrote this backwards. 0.09 minus 0.0014. So the way that I originally had that written would have resulted in a negative value. You can't have negative probabilities, right? So just FYI. If you get a negative value, the actual number itself is probably right, but the sign is wrong. Okay, anyway. So 0.9 minus 0.0014 is, let's see, 0.0886. So we'll round that up to 89. That's all right. And then that's pretty much that, right? And I'm now realizing too that this is step 4 and 5. Okay. And then I'll put step 6 right here. It's online. Well, okay. So that's the probability. I'm just writing it out simply as this, and then at the end here, we'll say that we'll write out both scenarios, right? So the probability of z being in between -3 and -1.33 equals 0.089, or the probability of selecting someone who is a male in between 60. Let's see, I'll write it like this. I'm going to run out of room. Sorry, male. 60 and 65 inches equals, okay, all we need to do is just take this value, what I've been doing, take that value and multiply it by 100. So that will be that would be 8.9%. Okay, so there is an 8.9%. We'll round that up and we'll just say there's a 9% chance that if you were to randomly select somebody from the U.S., a random male, there's a 9% chance that they'll be in between 60 and 65 inches. And that's that, right? So the process is still the same, right? This is still the same. This is still the same. It just looks different. Calculating the z-scores, we have to do it twice now, but that's no different than what we've been used to doing. And then 4 and 5, right? Our shaded area looked a little different, but Still not too bad. And then when we found probabilities, we had to subtract one of the probabilities away from the other one, right? And that resulted in this probability. Now, that's the whole process. That is the whole process. So as sort of like an interpretive sentence, the way you can think about probability too, if there's an 8.9% chance of this thing happening, instead you can look at it like this. For this example, so if we had, let's say that we had 100 people, 100 females, there would be 69 of them would be less than 65 inches, right? So 69 out of 100 would be less than 65 inches. Same thing with the males, where if we had 100 people, then, 8.9 of them would likely be between 60 and 65. We'll round that up to 9. We'll just say that there would be 9 people in between 60 and 65 inches if we grabbed 100 people. So that's sort of the real life example there. But if the whole 8.9% chance of something happening makes sense to you, then that's fine too. So I will leave it at this. This is going to be the last thing on the test. Maybe. I won't make it super difficult, I promise. So that's going to be that. And then in the next video, we'll do some more example questions. So I will see you then.